Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to have a Tavagu Education Forum. Today's agenda is the paying homage to the Buddha life, reciting the Tassa three times, and introduction to the speaker, Zoe Li, and main topic presentation. After that, we'll have Q&A session and a closing remark from the founder, and conclude the program by reciting Buddha Saranam, Siddha 32 three times. So let us open the ceremony by paying homage to the Buddha by reciting Buddha Namo Tassa three times. Namo tassa
Namo tassa
bhagavato
bhagavato
arahato
arahato
samma
samma
sambuddhassa.
sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. So next, today we'll have a speaker, Zoe Li from Boston. So she is my friend and a colleague, and we work together in several events together. And also we go to Vipassana meditation retreat together at Maryland by tradition of Sayaji Ubaken. So she is no stranger to Vipassana meditation. Today she gracefully agreed us to come and present her journey toward meditation and also how she became to be a founder of the meditation app. With that, I'll give the floor to Zoe.
Um, Thanks for the introduction and nice to meet everybody here. Such a huge time difference and but like so many like happy face. Uh, so let me just share my screen real quick. I made a little like slides using AI. Uh, mm, can you guys see my screen right now?
Yes, you can see.
Okay, give me just 1 second. Mm. So thanks again for inviting me, and thank you so much for making the time today. Before I dive in, I want to say isn't a pitch deck about startup. It's just my personal story and the story of like how a personal search of meaning turned into a startup, just as Alan just mentioned, and how the startup eventually pointed me towards the questions I cared a lot, which is why I'm so glad to talk with you through today's session. And today I'm going to walk you through who I am, the work I have done, and the journey of building I Embrace. That's the name of my startup. I have been working for the past more than like 2 years. And some of the customer insights that surprised me, that our team, we're probably going to surprise you guys as well. And also, I include the hardest decision our team had to make along this way and where am I right now. And also I include you guys are gonna hear some the retreat experience I have here. So and I'd love to hear your perspective at the end. So briefly, who am I? I did my we kind of talk about this a little bit during the networking at the beginning. So I did my undergrad at Boston University doing math and econ. And after that, I went that's COVID and I went back to Shanghai. But let's talk about like education background first. I went to Northwestern for my master program in machine learning and data science. And that's kind of the analytical side of me, numbers and models and systems. But around the same time, I was doing something on completely different track. I trained as a registered like therapist in China with a focus on mindfulness-based emotion regulation. And for a long time, I feel like there are two half of me live in separate rooms, the data scientist and the therapist, and the person who builds the model and the person who sits with people when they're crying. I also cry with them sometimes. What I learned over the last few years is that maybe they're not separate at all. The future of like mental health, from my perspective, needs both the human depth of care and the scale that only systems and data can provide. And that's the bridge I'm trying to build. So, and a little bit the work I have done so far. Here is I have where I have been putting my hands as for now, like for projects very different from each other, but they all taught me something I'm still using today, make me like the Zoe Li, like who was talking today. So the first project was actually I contributed to a UN SDG house project working on improving child medical records in Nigeria. And what this experience taught me was how much like human well-being depends on, or human life depends on the infrastructure people never see. A child get better care because of someone somewhere made the records system work, and that stays with me. Back then that we're using like the blockchain technology to build a smart contract between parents, doctor, and children. And the second project is I was supporting like two nonprofit organization for parents of children with autistic symptom. And we built a year-long practice curriculum, and we ran it for like through the year. And that experience taught me like something I now considered very fundamental. Like when you support the parents, you give them the tool to regulate themselves, and the children's life improve like dramatically. And the intervention point isn't like very obvious or very direct. And here I was actually by helping the parents to practice mindfulness in their daily life to improve the quality of life for their child, because they always think their children like are the stressor, and if they try more, try harder, their kids could be normal, but that's not the reality, that's not the truth. That's a disease. Yeah. So the third project was like an exit from like a Series A startup, B2B startup in Shanghai that was like during COVID. And I will be very honest, that one taught me about scale in a way, in other words, is about commercial discipline, about how a company actually grows. It also taught me the difference between building like something people say like an idea versus building something people actually use or they pay for it. And the last one is what the startup I'm doing right now, a digital wellness tool. It's in the App Store now, and we have now over 1,000 user. And alongside, I have been like leading more than like 50 workshops with college students on stress regulation, like better sleep quality, and focus body relaxation, different like theme and series of the workshop. Um, and the work is where I started to see up close how much young people are like quietly like struggling, and how few tools are they're actually have to work with. Those four threads were like four pillars: global health, family-centered care, and startup execution scaling. And the direct work with young people, they all kind of like flow into what I'm doing now. And okay, so this slide is the heart of what I want to share with you today. I want to walk you through two timelines that run actually in parallel for me. The top one is the personal journey with my mindfulness practices, and the bottom one is the professional one, like building the startup here at US as an international student. They look like two separate like stories, just like my background, but they're actually one for me as one story. Let me show you how. I basically have like three different stages: the starting stage, the developing stage, and the pivoting stage. Um, the seed become the realization was the I okay. So I started with feeling like very lost during COVID because I was doing a lot of quarantine at different cities in like Shanghai in China. And I was asking myself the question like a lot of people ask in their like maybe like in their mid-20s, what's the meaning of like all of this? What's the suffering and what's the solution? And how can I just better like have like a coping skill for all like the problems in my life. And I tried like so many things like yoga, breathing exercise, journaling, body scan, and like mantra. And eventually I realized something very simple. Like every single one of those practice was just a different door into the same room. And the room is being present. And they were all entrance to the same place. And that realization was the seed for became like sorry the startup idea. Uh, so as I mentioned, I tried different type of like practices, and I couldn't still don't understand what's kind of like the meaning of the practices. And I was like, I was frustrated to see if I get it, if I did I get it or not. Am I practicing or I'm just like sitting there doing nothing? I have like so many questions and so many frustrations, but I keep like searching for the meaning. And then I this is like kind of the here is a point I want to share with you guys. When I talk, use like mindfulness or meditation, this word in China, which people will directly like map them or associate them with daily practices. But here, like in the US, um, the same word tend to point towards something more spiritual, something deeper, and almost like transcendent. So same word, two different culture tones were like rooms. So that's like because I was looking, searching for the meaning, being so lost. I've been trying for different practices, and those are like everything that I learned for me to get the meaning of mindfulness. And that's actually when I started to help with two nonprofit organization in China to help the parents to get the benefits of the practice. And I received like huge like amount of like positive feedback. And then came to the develop stage. Um, yoga was the one thing I realized is also a form of meditation. Because what happened for me when I'm very stressed, I'm sitting there, I cannot just sit there still. And I don't have this kind of mind-body connection. So I was using yoga for personally for me as a doorway, to stretch my body and to still my mind. And also during my master program at Northwestern, I started leading a lot of like yoga workshops regularly. At the same time, I was working on getting my therapist lessons because I wanted more systematic understanding of how emotion regulation actually works, not just intuition, but framework. And on the startup side, I was asking myself, how do I make the practice more accessible to individual at scale, not only for like nonprofit organization, not only to my classmates or like Northwestern students, and how can I combine the data scientist background and the practice experience that I have when I was on the way of searching for meaning. So I made a choice to build a mindful practice large language model, which is an AI tool that could personalize each person's experience of the practices. I will give a really short example here. Like the stressors for high school student has is totally different than a finance guy or like a doctor because they have different routine, different struggles at different stage of life, even for different like professionals positions. And that actually contributed to the idea of there is no other thing a current tool providing the real-time generated and personalized practices. If you can search so many things online, but as for me, I've been searching a lot of practices, trying different instructors, but I still feel like, okay, I don't know what is the right one for me. So want to build this tool for like a more general audience. I want to make this experience more accessible. So it came to, I will come back to the pivoting point or the stage in a moment because it deserves its own slide. But this is the pattern. Like every step on the personal track has a twin on, it's kind of like a digital twin on the startup track. Searching for meaning became searching for the definition of mindfulness or how to be present in our day-to-day life. And practicing yoga become like the doorway to personalize the practice. And they are the same journey, just told twice. Um, and this is when our team started to do real customer discoveries, a lot of like we have done more than 100 interviews with people who tried mindfulness or meditation practices. And that's when we started to also apply for different incubators across universities and apply for pitch competition. And two things came up that I want to share with the audience here today. So the first one is on the right, which is kind of I mentioned at the second stage, developing stage, um, as my personal journey. So most people, I think about like 70% to 80% of people, when we ask them why they came to meditation in the first place, they were not talking about meditation. They were talking about feeling lost, depressed, or like super anxious. And almost like universally, the way they got there was through their body first. They tried yoga and breath work, movement, and the body is what bridge people from what they are to stillness. And the practice usually like followed after the yoga, like exercise. And was that's kind of like the insight here. And the second insight is on the left, which is when we were kind of doing the research online, we web script all like the post and they're like the Reddit subreddit post about like meditation or mindfulness, well-being. About like 80% of people who were commenting and they're like the subreddit was talking about they feel like so lost and so frustrated because they don't know what's the practice and they keep trying and trying. They got lost again and they become angry. So a huge negative emotion and they're like the discussion about mindfulness. And so the dominant flavor wasn't like sadness, it was anxiety, it was frustration, and people feeling stuck, people feeling that they were trying to get somewhere and they couldn't, and they're confused. Both of the insights pointed in the same direction. Like people are hurting upstream of the crisis. They're not in breakdown. They are in slow erosion. And the tool available to them are either too clinical, designed for someone in real crisis, or like too fluffy, like designed for somebody who like feel pretty fine, like they know how to practice. So there is a missing layer in the middle, and that missing layer is exactly what our team want to do. And now I'm coming back to the hardest decision our team has made. So there came a point when we had a real like ongoing huge fight, not a very polite disagreement, but a fight about where this product should be. Should this be a crisis management tool or just a prevention tool? Um, so after we first launched the app, we found something like in common for our paying first cohort of paying customers. They all have chronic anxiety, and they are treating our app as a crisis management tool. And they're using it to have kind of like a distraction because we're as an anchor point because one of the feature of our app is to make the experience more immersive. For all the soundscape you can hear like ocean wave, campfire, or the singing ball, you can actually feel another layer by the vibration we provided through our app. So that's the question we're like constantly debating for a month because okay, we have paying customers, but the case for crisis, and also the case for the crisis was very strong, and there is a like in reality a mental health crisis in this country. People are suffering. Like we know the numbers, like 20% of like people here, like Americans, they have like suffering from depression, and right now the today the need is undeniable. There is urgency for a, a rise itself. And if you build a crisis tool, no one questions like whether it matters or not. But here is what I keep coming back to. The crisis space is already very crowded. There are hotlines, there are apps, and there are clinical interventions. There are like also emergency rooms. And they're they're under-resourced for sure. But a category exists. People know what does a crisis tool look like. But at the meanwhile, the upstream is so empty, like the place where somebody's starting to spiral, like into crisis, but hasn't yet formed yet, where 5 minutes high space or those high space could create a little bit more time before making a reaction. Or 5 minutes of a different kinds of attention could change the trajectory of their week or their mindset. That space has almost like no one in it. So our team choose actually the harder route, which is the prevention, and we choose to build for the moment before the crisis started to spiral. And we pivoted to like the K through 12 like students. And we are providing experience-based learning as for now. So students can feel the real practices, have the real body and mind connections through the breath work. And the goal isn't to teach kids what is mindfulness, but the goal is to give them a felt experience of what it's like to pause, to regulate, and how to have more awareness for those like emotions in their daily life when they're stressed, and to see actually they have more options than they could ever expected or they never thought they could have. And so this is the hardest choice commercially. Prevention is harder to sell. That's why we pivoted from like B2C to B2B. The urgency isn't visible. For us, we have to create an urgency for like the institutions to pay. We have to make people see what they're not fully seeing as for now. But I think that's the work needs effort and needs doing. So this is a personal moment with you, like kind of going back to how um, I experienced through the 10 days Vipassana retreat. And that's the moment I knew like prevention was the right path. During the silent retreat, days of silence, no phone, no talking, just sitting. And at some point during that retreat, I I should say at the first couple days of the retreat, I had physical pain just by sitting there like for half an hour because I was like, oh, my leg hurts, my back hurts. And that's kind of the pain you get naturally from sitting there for a long time. Uh, and that just gets your attention or pulls your attention all the time. You're like, no way, I couldn't do this anymore. I should sit at the chair and come back and or take a walk or grab a tea and come back to the practices. And then as the retreat went on, I started just to talk to myself in my mind, like, can you just try to stop paying attention to it? And I tried and tried. I tried to redirect my attention, just come back to my breath and not just kind of suppress the pain. Like it's okay to feel the pain, but I'm not fighting towards it. I just like stop paying attention to it. And then it's just disappear like naturally. It dissolved. That's the moment I feel like, wow, that's so powerful. Cha that changed something in me. It made me realize how powerful our brain could be and how much what we experience as suffering is actually our attention was trying to form to let us feel in a certain way or in a particular place. So I started to think if a 15-year-old who has done years of practices can have that experience and find it life-changing, what would it mean for like a 13-year-old to learn this? So not as a theory, but feel the practice. And so before their pain becomes the architecture or form the pattern of reaction of their adult life. And that's what we mean by like prevention. We're not trying to prevent emotions. We're trying to give young people more options at the right moment, like plant a seed in their mind. So when crisis hit, it wouldn't spiral into like more pain or suffering. And that's what when life hits, when it's hard, they have something like in their mind or like a seed or like a support system. And at the last, I want to share um, where I am as for now. So there are three things I'm currently doing. As I mentioned, like my startup team and my startup journey and our team is developing an experience-based prevention curriculum, and the curriculum is designed to develop like young people with practical tools for two things specifically, emotional resilience and healthy technology use because they're two deeply linked, and the most of the existing use mental health work treats them as separate problems. And advising, I'm currently serving as an advisor for another nonprofit startup. Basically, they're building like similar social media platform like Instagram, but they only allow like the positivity share. So to increase the positive karma in this world. And also now I'm also for the last year, I've been mentoring like a group of high school students who are developing a voice screening tool, which is an early detection system that use voice analysis to flag mental health concerns before they escalated. So honestly, watching those like students do this work has been one of like the most hopeful thing I have experienced in the entire journey. And that's why I'm here. Um, yeah. Uh, the question I'm sitting with right now, how do we scale preventative approach and use mental health? And how do we build something that reaches like kids early enough, deeply enough, and at enough scale to eventually shift the outcome? And I would love to hear everybody's perspective on this. Um, thank you so much. That's everything I have.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Zoe, for giving us a wonderful presentation. So anybody from the audience would like to ask question or have a discussion going, then please feel free to unmute your mic and ask question. Briefly, please state your name and your locations where you live in right now.
Thank you so much, Zoe Li. I am Venerable Wisoda from Pyongyang, Myanmar. I'm thinking, how do you create the app? What did you create? And did it get the
Mm,
point? Uh,
um, So, uh, like I didn't create the app just from one night. It's kind of like we
Mm,
do some like we conducted some interviews, we gathered the insight. So we started with just one page, and also um I think the better way to answer this question is I was in like where university's incubator where I had a chance to collect a lot of like feedback, and the app in general took like at least 10, 20 like iterations based on because there's so many bugs like when we first launched. But the first version was actually just the I think it's one simple button. Like when people play it, they can feel the haptics, just as I mentioned, like ocean wave for all the
mm,
soundscape they can hear. They can feel the vibration, and also this the practice is now pre-generated. It's kind of like real-time generated. So we're testing like if haptics making the practices more effective based on their personal need, like their personal input. So there are two technical features running at the back end, but from the user's like feedback, sorry, from the user's point of view, there only one button at the first version. But now, if this is thanks for posting the link. If you're looking at the link as for now, like the user onboarding, the signing up, and all the daily quotes like we have after practices, we kind of add it slowly, like one step at a time. Like we've been like that's a ongoing journey.
okay. So no theory, just practically the practice. No need to read any test, uh, no need to listen any advice. You just follow to the app
Um,
advice, right?
So how it works is, as I mentioned, is a large language model. Compared to like if I'm going to like a meditation class or if I
Mm,
search like a breathing exercise online, the app actually collects your personal inputs. Like what are you struggling about right now? Because you may struggling about like, for example, I'm nervous before sharing with you guys. I'm not familiar with the audience, but I still like I would want to encourage myself the stressor I'm feeling right now could be different than tonight when I was, sorry, tonight before I go to sleep. So like people's
mm,
emotions, they're like changes along the day. So that's how we kind of collected the input into the model, the large language model we have, and generated as the real-time practices for our users.
mm. Okay, very interesting. Thank you, thank you.
So one question. So I learned a lot about you more than I know you outside. And then there's some aspect in the presentation that I didn't know about you yet. So
Yeah.
great to know you better. And also, how do you find the content to put in your app?
Mm. So how do we collect content? You mean for the language model, large language model,
Yeah,
or
for the
just
meditation app in general. So you have to source from you give guidance to the app users, right? So how do you generate those content? Is that all AI generated, or you put in some real world practice into that, some talks or some philosophy or something, so that the app user can experience? Where is that coming from?
Mm. So um there are like a lot of thoughts in my mind, but I think mainly there are like two steps. So, there, for example, for people who never tried personalized like mindfulness, they don't know how to like actually answer the questions. So we actually have some fixed practices. For example, it's actually just a overview to help people understand what the practice is about. Like how can they, for example, when they're eating stuff, how can they make the eating experience into like a little bit more mindful, like adding a mindfulness layer into their life. So what we have done was to create a recommendation system based on their daily routine. Like we for example 7 to 9 is the morning routine, and from 9 p.m. to 11 that's the evening routine, and during the 12 to 1 is the eating time. So So that's why we kind of recommending practices to user, and that's the fixed part. Because a lot of time during the interview, going back like to the interview, like everything we put in our app is based on like the user feedback. Because I heard mainly like everybody was talking to me, they want to practice more and they hope they can form a routine, but they couldn't. And that's why we want to use our practices as their anchor based on like people's in general, like people's routine, but they can change that into their like so our recommendation system is tailored or personalized to different time zone. So what you're looking at, if you open your app in China, you're going to receive different practices versus here, I'm in the US because the time is different. But user themselves, they can also adjust like maybe I'm like a morning person. I woke up at 5, for example, during the retreat. Every day we woke up around 4, right? So you can also adjust the time. But for the practice, but once user know, okay, what does the practice mean? So we guide them through more personalized experiences. So we actually ask them like questions. For example, I'm not sure if you guys know about the loving kindness like practices like metta. And we're gonna ask them like questions like, uh, what is the situation? Like, what was the problem you're facing right now? And what are the words you will say to somebody you love and you care in the same situation? So using that, there are also like other similar apps. They're doing like affirmation using the user's own voice by giving themselves like by practicing more meta, like guide them through like those missing gaps of like what is meta to like by asking questions, collecting their inputs, and with users' inputs together, the real-time generated practice will make this a holistic experience.
Yeah,
Mm.
thank you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of time when because we have been doing like a lot of interviews without talking about our solution, but asking people's like problem where they're struggling. For example, we have one practice which is the flight anxiety because I personally have like 2, 3 friends. They feel extremely anxious during before on the flight. And they were like, can you just make this in the app? Like, I really need this. And that's how like how we actually put the practice into the our app, like the user feedback into the app. And the main point is to help people at the right moment. And time, like the routine is one point, and make the personalized experiences where the practice is another point.
Interesting. Yeah. Uh, Oppos A16K, you have a question or comment? I saw the microphone unmuted. Maybe not sure. So, one thing that audience and including myself might be curious is that we saw that you have started up so many uh, projects. So I'm really curious what are the steps to do the founding member of the startup, or how difficult it is to have your own app and have a startup?
That's actually, I really like this question because there is a kind of like a Boston hack group, and there is a question asking about like how I'm an internet student. I have an idea. I want to build a startup. Can I just talk to somebody? And I just leave my number. They're like, I was like, you can just call me. And so many people called me by like me after like replying that message. And I think in general. Uh, I'm too excited to this question, and I really want to share this with every um person who has like an idea and trying to build here. I think for international student for sure, war is more difficult because we need to solve like the visa issue and like finish work course and also like the daily things like find a place to stay and or even like how to communicate my idea with people from different background. And basically I encourage people to think about like two questions. Which will bring more clarity at the really early stage for like startup, like especially for founders. The first one is, are you building like a startup or actually a project you just want to like explore or like um work as a side job thing? And a second question is the startup kind of is the startup a venture-backed startup, or do you have like enough runway to support the startup for you to do all those like trials? Because like doing startup is not like, okay, you just made it and you get successful, like you get a lot of money. It's a lot of validation from the real market feedback. So that's I think looking back, um, I think I will really appreciate if somebody told me this, this asked me these two questions, and that's how I was asking those people who was calling me, like, what should I do? Like, should I register the company? I was like, do you know the cost of actually having a company? Like, without maybe there's a chance you are not like making revenue at the beginning. Can you just do some testing or like have some hypothesis before you started to actually be really serious or work full time on this? Because as intern, like I know we have a pretty like international like based audience group. Because I think as international students, our base is to how can we like make the most of the time we're here and to make the most efficient move. So if anybody like after this meeting or call has more questions, I would love to kind of help answering like more specific questions. But those two questions are the questions I wish I could know earlier. And if like a startup founder could also um, think about this. Like I don't have an answer for this, but these two questions will help them to bring a little bit like sense of clarity when they're making decisions at the early stage.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I believe that a lot of people will be excited to uh do the startup and app and stuff. So CMI, you have questions, please.
Yeah, thank you, Xia. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, hey Zoe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Can I move to your point number two now?
Oh, oh, sorry, I'm still sharing. Like, oh, I forgot. Like, so you want me to go back to slides number
Yeah.
two?
When,
Oh,
when you say, yeah, can you keep it just like that?
this one?
The last slide to
Oh,
talk.
Oh, that last slide.
That's all right. The last slide.
oh, mm,
Points to talk, yeah. That's point number two. You say
mm-hmm,
like prevention.
mm-hmm,
Can you explain me a bit further what is prevention from what? And when
mm.
you say upstream is undersupply, which is undersupply? What do you mean by your upstream?
I really appreciate this question. I think prevention, my definition here is before the circumstances become like a crisis. For example, you have to like call 911 or have some like suicidal like thoughts or mindfulness like practices wasn't enough in a way that was like elevated into like a severe circumstance. So that's the crisis management.
So
And
prevention from all kinds of crises, more mental thing.
and prevention, what I'm this is like word like self-definition here. What we're trying to do is to provide help or to build a support system before those like hard moments, like the
Mhm.
crisis spirals into life. Um, because let's say I will give one example. Like if I don't have any tool and I was like locked in during quarantine for a month, I would just go to like depression, huge depression, and I don't know what to do. But if let's say I have some like coping skills before that happen, like running into the cases like that, I will have a better mindset and a better coping tool. And that's something like we hope to equip like the K through 12 like students or even like young professionals like adults. That's kind of like the mindset or the seed we're trying to plant into people's mind, so when things happen
Where
it
are your
wouldn't.
tools? Sorry. Where are your tools? Which is under supply? Where are you
So that's what I'm saying. Like, for now, um, so for I think is comparing to crisis management tool. Like they have therapists you can talk about, like emergency line. And I think I went to a mental health conference last year, and for all the student card, like college students, like they have their own student ID. They have like a hotline. If they have anything like really emergent, they can call the line. That's what I was saying. Like for the current crisis management solution. But for like the prevention, because it's very hard to measure the impact or the results, and the crisis management like track or the supply is very crowded. But as the comparison, the prevention care is undersupplied, which means they need a solution, they need more awareness, and that's where I believe can create huge impact.
Fair enough. Way to go. Good luck. Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks for asking that question. Because this is kind of that goes back to the huge fight we have, because if we're just charging for a crisis management tool, it's based on our user feedback is actually very easy to charge. But for those people who need the like at the crisis moment in their life, they need more than like a practice. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Zoe, how is your time doing? I would like to be mindful of your time. I believe that we have one more questions.
Yeah, like I think I can okay, I think I have more time. Yeah, like I can do two if there's more, or we can do like a little bit like networking. Like I'm very curious about the audience as well. And thank you one more time for hosting this.
Yeah, what made you Picasso? You have a question?
Actually, yeah, I'm like thinking. Sorry, I have to open my video
Thanks.
about yeah. Yes, my name is Midhukasu, and I'm attending this seminar from Yangon, Myanmar. And I am thank you for your presentations. And it's using the app and also the kind of the your professions. Registered therapist is a little bit, I think, strange, not strange, but very rare in our society country. But there are a few, yeah. But it's a kind of a learning and a new thing that I learned from your presentations. Yes. Because like mindfulness practices and also meditation in the society is more link with here is like the in-persons
Mm,
and also the knowledge sharing about not practicing what I meant, but knowledge sharing is doing by the online, like
mm,
what we do right now. But yeah, practicing is practice the mindfulness, especially the meditation, vipassana meditations are mostly in persons in the country. There are a few like persons like be lay persons and
mm,
from the maybe psychologically point of view. But when we talk about the vipassana meditation, let's say like in one word, meditation is linked with the kind of religious you know,
mm,
and the Buddhist monk and the Buddhist studies kind of right. It's more common in here.
mm, mm.
So I
Yeah.
wanna know it's like I'm looking into your point three in the last slide, and I'm thinking out loud
Mm, mm, mm,
as a registered therapist. What kind of I'm also listening your Q&A with the previous previous talk with yeah two audience, which target beneficiaries, or how could I use the right word? Target audience are
mm,
the most it's common as your profession in like what you say about the mindfulness and using app and tools. Yeah. or in your setting, you are right now doing your job as in US, not only
Yeah.
in US but also in China, right? Am I
Uh,
understood right?
So that's actually that's another good question. So I'm mainly developing this on US because we technical side we deploy everything to the cloud here, and that's why like if you use like you have users like you can download the app outside the US. It just took like a minute to download, like to play the audio because it was deployed here. And this is kind of like a startup cost benefit analysis. Like it took us more time and like human resources or capital to deploy one in China because we need to change all like the services because like Google was not like a lot of services we're using is not the same in China. And I hope I answered the last part where I might developing the app and currently is the US. But very interesting, like I'm a type of person who loves doing user interviews. I interviewed like university like teachers and psychology like high school teachers for who has schools who had been implementing like mindfulness or emotion regulation like experiences for their students. And then because I was trying to estimate, see what is the kind of like the stigma in China, like people are talking about like mental health. Um, and the result, I can like talk with you later after this. But for now, I have a conclusion on like still like as for now, I didn't see like sorry, let me just skip this part, but
Yeah.
because I was thinking about the first question you asked, like the knowledge sharing, about knowledge sharing and the target audience. I'm not sure if I get it correctly. So you're basically asking about who is our target audience?
Sure. Like it is I mean like the application users or your because as your professions who are the target audience that's my
Mhm.
yeah, who use or who applies, yeah, mostly.
No. I will give a short answer. Basically, when we first developed the app, our user are our payers, like individuals who want to try the practices, who are using our like tool, like the app as a crisis management tool. But as for now, like after the huge fight we got within our team, when we're like making decisions on should we continue with the crisis management tool or we do more like prevention care for before crisis happened. So we have to look back to when can we possibly make this happen. And that's why our payer right now is different than our user. So our user are like students, K through 12 students, but the payer may be their parents or their high school. And I hope I answered you that question. And that's why we're developing.
Got it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. So both like my understanding from your point is like it's prevention and care on one part, and also like when the crisis happenings, like the managements of the crises related to whatsoever, I mean related to mental health, all yeah. So it is included, right? 2 points, two parts.
I like I understand the first part, like which the prevention care, but what is the management part, like the later part? I don't quite understand. Yeah.
Me, you, what I listened to your point is like the crisis management also included in your
That
discussion.
was how we
Yeah.
get started. Like for now, we're
Mm.
focusing more on the the prevention care. Yeah.
Sure.
hmm mm.
Interesting. But I have many.
But
Uh,
it's fine.
I
I
got the
really
link, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So can I? Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, like you can just try the app. Like it's just gonna be like very like slow. Just a heads up here. But if you guys really like it, I could maybe deploy it in like one in Asia for people to use. But I really appreciate the question. Like it was maybe the answer of those questions will change in like 3 months, but that's like the most updated like version as for my life and for the startup. Yeah.
Thank you, Zoe Li. Thanks. Yeah,
Mhm,
I'm gonna try. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, Ms. Yang, you have a quick question? Oh, you got it? Hold on, let me unmute for you.
And how do you practice meditation per week? How do you practice?
You mean how do I write the meditation, like the code for the app? Sorry, I didn't hear clearly about that word.
Yeah, the code.
Oh, so that will go back a little bit to my background. I was doing math for like my undergrad and machine learning and data science. So like for my master program, I was actually building a lot of like AI solution for that school's project, but we are working with industry clients. So I'm personally like a technical person, but a skill set, like skill wise, I'm a very technical person, but human wise, I cared about like how people live their life. And I believe in if like we empower people to have like a little bit more space before they make their reaction, um, life will be better. And that was and then like my co-founder was also actually I met my technical co-founder at my school like incubator. He was building another large language model for emotional like support. So we were like, wow, we should do this together. So that's why I was mostly doing the user interview and providing the feedback to my like technical co-founder, and we iterate the product together. But we started to develop the app without like before Cursor, Claude, like all the AI agent like helping you to write code. But we read a code like most of the code line by line, like with some help with ChatGPT. But I would say the iteration of the app will be way much easier with like the current technology as for now. And that's why I think the real problem and the use case for the solution is more important because from my perspective, I think like code or um like writing like those code, they're not asset anymore. Like I think the problem and the right solution is the most important thing for startup.
Thank you so much. I got it.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I really appreciate your question as well.
All right, let's move on with our official ceremony. So we're going to have a closing remark by the Tavagu Education Forum founder, Venerable Seattle Shin Wituta, and then presenting the certificate, Seattle.
Yeah, Zoe, thank you so much for your informative presentation. Your presentation reminds us our monastery member should familiar with modern technology, AI too. We are not familiar with this ID tool. Anyhow, I really appreciate your effort. I wish you are successful. Now this is our small present. I hope it will help you in some way. Thank you so much, Zoe. Hopefully see you
Thanks for
again in the
inviting
future.
me. Thank you so much. Yeah, if there's any questions, like I think I already like Alan already posted my link in like if there are more questions, I would love to answer even after this. And I know it's probably like late there, and I hope everybody could have the rest of their have a good rest of the day, rest of the evening.
Yeah, thank you. So
Okay.
let us
Thanks
conclude
for the
our
certificate.
Thank
yes.
you.
Let us
Okay.
conclude our ceremony by reciting Buddha Sasanan Siddhan Setu 3 times. Buddha Dharana Siddhan Setu. Buddha Sasanan
Siren, take the two.
Buddha Sasanan
Buddha,
Siddhan
Siren, take the two. Sa.
Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Pomo. Thank you, Mo.